Hello and welcome to Astro Clearing Circle. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you a bit about Astro Clearing, our elegant combination of soul-based astrology and energy clearing, rebalancing, and reconnection that we offer in this public space, but we also offer it in private sessions. So for individuals, when you find yourself in a transition, whether it's work-related or involves a relationship, Astro Clearing offers you guidance and reassurance, supporting you to reconnect with your own higher wisdom. So you gain clarity around your best next steps, clear blocks on your path, and set yourself up for success as you walk out your soul's intended journey. For groups working in a team environment or on a particular project, we help you intercept conflicts before they arise, overcome difficulties more quickly to regain your focus, understand how to really benefit from the gifts inherent in any challenges you're facing, remove barriers to gaining those all-important new clients, and of course improve overall communication and collaboration in your team. So if this attracts you or if you want more information, just reach out to us at toolsfortransformation.ca. We're also excited to offer these gorgeous Celestial Wisdom astrology cards designed and produced by Valan. They're available at valansastrology.com, and we're going to be integrating them into our circles going forward. An amazing way to learn about astrology, but also I love using them as oracle cards. So if you want to pick some up, you can get them at valansastrology.com. Now let's hand it over to Valan to share with us what Zora, the Soul Collective's message is for this group this month.
My dear ones, recognize that you have already embarked on a new journey for yourself that brings changes in your personal empowerment. As you may not know at this time the full importance of this initiation that you've begun, realize that this is a truth. And the changes are part of an evolving for each and every one of you. Changes in themselves bring questions and challenges. Accept that this is all part of your personal journey to self-fulfillment and healing. Make the time during your busyness to be in stillness, even if it is only for a moment at a time, to allow for the guidance that is there for you to come through and be noticed. You are being guided for your own higher purpose, and each journey is made easier with the recognition and the understanding of this guidance that is being offered to you.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to encourage everybody to just sit in the energy of that for a moment. And as you sit in that energy, perhaps take one hand or both hands, just place it on your belly, below your belly button, and just be present to the groundedness and the wholeness, the fullness of this message. I'm also going to just bring attention, extra attention, to the line that they offered: make the time during your busyness to be in stillness, even if it is only for a moment at a time, to allow for the guidance that is there for you to come through and be noticed. And we'll find out in a moment why I'm bringing extra attention to that.
So there's a big picture that is coming to I'm going to say the word crisis point. That's not quite, it's not a crisis, but a challenge point in August. And part of that was initiated in December 2020 when a whole new cycle was brought together. It's called the Great Conjunction. Happens every 20 years, and it changes elements: earth, fire, water, air, or the elements. It changed to air element, which is a 200-year cycle, part of an 800-year cycle. So this is part of the huge change that we're all living right now. We're in the middle of it. It's all the upheaval that's happening is part of this change. So what happened? Planet Saturn and Jupiter came together at 0 degrees Aquarius. That's the astrology part. What that was doing was planting a new seed for each of us for 20 years. So Jupiter is a planet of expansion, optimism, the future. It's a place that we want to expand our life. Saturn is about how we're going to make this real. How do we manifest it? What are the limits and controls we're going to put on our dreams, our visions, so that we can make them real? That was part of the seed that was planted. And whether you can feel what was initiated at the end of 2020, or whether there were some ideas that took form, something that you feel that you wanted to do. Like it's going to be different for everyone. Mine, I have a very specific experience of what was started at that point. But it may have to do with your ideals, new ideas, community, the future vision for yourself, things starting to change faster. That's air, fast ideas moving. So it might be something that you want to reflect on as a what did happen at the end of 2020. And of course, we all know that was part of COVID, and there was so much change and upheaval and tension and all that stuff. But it often spurred us on to create something new for ourselves, or to examine something new for ourselves. What is happening is we're getting a reality check of what was initiated. So it's maybe something to consider and think back, even if you can't think now, just a time to drop into what might have been initiated, even if it was an inkling of something, because it's part of this 20-year cycle, and we're at a really important piece of that cycle right now.
And so in honor of that, I wanted to share something. Valen doesn't know we're doing this, but I just wanted to share something fun for us. And that is that I checked back on what it was that Valen and I were up to in December of 2020. And what we were doing was we were running our first course for Tools for Transformation. It was called Magnetic Moon Cycles. And some of you here this evening and online listening to the recording will recognize that course, and we're part of that course. And it's what really launched Tools for Transformation and our Inner Wisdom Circle and all of the things that we've been doing for the last 3.5-4 years. And this is the channeled message that was offered by Zora for that group in December of 2020. And wow. I wanted to just take a moment because I'm going to read part of it. So what they're talking about is the course itself and the fact that we're being offered tools, and that these tools are helping us to support the connection to our higher self and our true self. So that's their consistent message. Pretty much it's been that way for years. But here's what I wanted to share with you. What comes of this is you allow yourself the opening to this connection are moments where there comes reflexive resistance, even unnamed discomfort with yourself in this process. We've been talking about that a lot and working with that. And we're really feeling that right now. This in itself is a powerful signal to understand that you are at the crossroads of a new experience. So just keep in mind that this is December 2020. Allow yourself the compassion for this inner awareness as it arises, for it is in the self-compassion that the resistance softens and a new place in yourself can be opened. It is a great blessing when one can see the lessons you have manifested both inner and outer, for it is a call for your soul's growth. Here it comes. Create for yourself a daily reminder of your own connection to your soul, even if only for a moment. Wow. It is this connection that allows you the unfurling of your true light as expressed in physical form.
What's happening now, back to 2024, back to August 2024, what is happening is a time of, like, I'm calling it a stress test, a reality check on what was initiated. So once again, whether you know a specific, you can just get into the feeling of what was going on for you at the end of 2020, early 2021. It's all kind of, this is 30 years, 20-year cycle. So it's, there's some leeway there on the months. What happens at a new moon is the moon and the sun come together, and that's when the seeds are planted. So whenever you've been in our new moon circles, we know that's the time to plant the seed. That's the initiating. And then at the full moon is the culmination. That's the harvest. But halfway in between is the quarter moon. And in this case, we're talking about Saturn and Jupiter. So it's the quarter Saturn-Jupiter. But when it gets to that point, it's the point of, if you've planted a seed, it's the point of when you've got to work and you've got to assess. If you think of a plant, you've got to assess, what have I chosen to grow? How is it growing? What do I need to do to make that grow the best? So we're at that point. That's the reality test. What have we planted? How is it growing? What do we need to do? Is it working? Do we need to make changes? Do we need to mend the soil? Do we need to prune things back? That's the time we're at right now. And it's a really important time within this 20-year cycle, because it's the beginning of, what have I chosen to grow for the next 20 years? So this is really important for us to kind of think about where we're at and think about, what do we want to expand right now? And maybe what do we need to pull back on? What do we need to contract in some way? So it's a time to reflect and assess what we have started. It's going to be different for everyone. And if you happen to know your chart, you can look where Pisces is. That's the contraction, if you know your chart well enough, and where Gemini is, and that will be the expansion. Don't worry about it if it doesn't matter. Just drop into it if you don't know that. So what's happening is Jupiter's in Gemini. That is the connection to our beliefs as Jupiter, our hopes, our future ideas. It's this expanding, uplifting energy. And because it's in Gemini, Gemini's of the mind, it's our thoughts, it's expanded perspectives. It's gathering information, asking good questions, staying open and flexible, because there's this place where things are still in change, in flux. And that's going to be really important. I'm going to go back to staying flexible. And at this time in August, Mars, the planet of passion, fire, impatience, energy, drive, it's actually with Jupiter. And so it's firing this up. It's bringing even more sense of, oh my gosh, there's a lot we can do. There's a lot I want to get going on. Oh my, I'm attached to my beliefs. I can see my future. I'm in that expansion. So that's all beautiful. And at the same time, there's a conflicting energy that says, Saturn in Pisces, wait a second, you got to slow it down. You need some limitations. You need some structure. You need a time to contract what is too much. If you think again on the gardening metaphor, it's like, what do I need to prune back? Things are growing like nuts right now. What limbs am I taking off? What don't I want to encourage in growth? So this is a contraction of focus. It can be reserved and quite serious. This can be connected to old patterns, limits, endings. So there's a piece that, wow, I got these great ideas. This is amazing. I want to grow. I see the future. And at the same time, there's a place that's, well, what's real? What do I want to make real? What do I want to manifest? What old stories do I not want to carry forward in this? So there's a place that these two, even though their intention, are working really well together, especially when we acknowledge there may be times when this doesn't feel comfortable. And Saturn creates boundaries, and the boundaries is, this is what I want to carry forward into this cycle, and this is what I don't want to. That's the limit. That's the boundaries. So there's Saturn allows us to create a container, and it's in Pisces. Create a container for the spirit. Create a container for your creativity, for the connection to source, for your flow. This is building a new foundation, and it asks to have patience, and it asks for self-responsibility. So all these two challenging energies is what's happening right now, and we're being asked to embrace the idea that we can have a grand vision and we can make it real. And there may be things we need to release, cut back to make what we're growing, what we're expanding into, what we actually want. What do we really want to manifest? And for growth and stability, we need both these things. We need the vision, and we also need that place that's discerning and that says, you know what, that seems great, or those 10 ideas seem great, but really there's one I want to focus on, or there's two I want to focus on. And if I do that, I can make it real. So that's part of this energy that's coming up in this month. And it's part of this 20-year cycle. So there's a piece where this is important because we're getting this opportunity. What do we want to grow? And how are we going to do that? And in August, we're having that first story of that. We're going to hit that again in December, where we'll get a little more reflectiveness. We'll get a little turning inward. Okay, is this working again? What did I do in August? What did that feel like? How do I want to change that? All the way until June 2025, we're still going to be getting to work with this. So we've got lots of time, which is awesome. August and December, these planets are in, it's called mutable signs, flexibility, flow. It's called a mutable sign. It's the place where we can still have flexibility, still be adaptable. Come June, we move into a cardinal, let's do it. Those are the signs. So what this implies is that over the course, certainly August to December, we can reflect, we can observe, we can make changes, we can decide what we want to cut out so that we can grow our visions for ourselves. However, it's probably in general a good idea to remain flexible and open. And so that'll be part of the, staying open to be able to change, to not necessarily set in and create something that cannot be changed at this point. So just something to consider as you're reflecting on what was initiated and what the reality check is for you now. What do you want to make real? That's the point we're at this time. Your slides are something else. There we go. Okay. So there's a reason why this is even more important. And we have, and anyone who's been with us over the past year, I've been speaking of Pluto moving into Aquarius. This is our being empowered to be our authentic self and doing some deep work. Pluto is the planet of let's dive in deep. Let's look at our shadow. Let's step into our own power. Let's look at death and rebirth cycles. What has to be let go of so that we can step into this new rebirth, this new transformation? Pluto's in Aquarius. It's about being our authentic self. As we're our authentic self, we support the collective. So what's happening right now is Pluto is intensifying the part of the zodiac where that seed was planted. So what we're doing is at this point, we're actually being empowered to feel into, wow, okay, what's the vision for myself when I stand in my authenticity? When I feel the power of what I want to bring into the world? When I know that as I'm transforming and healing, there's a place here in Aquarius, we're adjusting to higher frequencies. And that is a piece of what is going on at this time. And that's part of the, I'm going to say the unsettling energies that, we can see in the external world, but a lot of us are feeling one way or another in different parts. Right? There's a piece of this is because we're being asked to step into higher frequencies in a new way and to align to our authentic self so that we can be transformed personally. So Pluto is long-term, total transformation of our beliefs, our ideals, and we're being called to ground them and manifest them as a new reality for ourselves. And when stuff is chaotic in the external world, and I did say this last time, knowing that there was going to be some dramatic things happening, and the dramatic things did happen mid-month. When there's external dramatic things happening, it's aligned to, in this case again, to the planet Uranus. It's dynamic energy, especially mid-month. When there's drama, unexpected things happening that seem out of the blue or can sort of feel like it upsets some energy out in the world, that is our reminder to remember that we're called to be connected to our planet. Uranus is saying, show up in who you are. That's what's important. And the drama may be happening outward. And if that's happening, that is your reminder to say, wait a second, that's craziness happening out there. What is that saying? That's saying, wow, okay, who am I now? How do I want to stand in my power? How am I aligned to my own uniqueness? That's the piece that's important. And this will happen around the week around August 19th. The full moon is the place where this Uranus energy is going to be at play again. And it feels like it's just as equally as important as it was in July. If there's external drama, it's basically telling you, focus on who you are. Focus on, stand in your own power. Great reminder, and not get caught up in the external stuff. So what I've done is just put together some points about working with these specific energies of the month. There's other energies going on, but I picked these as being, this is really important, and it is a long-term energy. So I think it's really a great thing to know that you'll be working with it for the next 8 months. So working with connecting to the hope, the optimism, the expansion, and the grace. That's that Jupiter. Your perspective on this. Connect to that. That's a gift. And recognize where the limitations, where there's any contraction, is actually guidance for you. Saturn's our teacher. And sometimes when there's a limit, when there's a stop, that's actually a guidance. And it's like, oh, do I need to go farther that way? Do I need to push farther? This is actually to pay attention to what stops you so that you can stop and go, is it the right thing? Acknowledge your progress. So we're in this 20-year cycle. We're at the beginning of the assessment. Where am I going for the next 20 years? Acknowledge what you've done, or even acknowledge the inkling of, there's something more. I have this vision, even if I can't quite grab it yet. I have this vision, to acknowledge that that's part of your progress in your personal evolutionary growth. And because Jupiter is in Gemini, this is a beautiful time to seek information that's going to be part of your journey. It's the place where it's like, oh, I have this future vision. Maybe there's stuff I need to know. There's things I need to, and follow the ideals. That's part of that Pluto in Aquarius. Follow your ideals. And Saturn is about time. So there's also a place about trusting the timing of the unfolding, your personal timing. There are times when you can't push what isn't meant to be manifest at this time. So it's more of acknowledging, I am moving towards something, and maybe there's a place here where I need to slow down and reflect, and I need to trust that life is unfolding as it should for your highest good. And the last point, which has to do with what I talked about with the mutability, is as much as possible, stay flexible, stay adaptable, keep your options open. So after reflecting, this is a time to remember, I need to think about this, and I may actually want to change this moving forward. Let me just gather some more information and see what that feels like, and not necessarily lock fully into something at this point. So those are the big energies that I think the way that we can work with some of the energies that are initiated this month that are going to continue on. So this is actually an ongoing piece in the astrology. So I think those are the main points.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So before we move into the energy work portion of this evening's circle, I'd like to get everybody's permission to work with your energy in this circle. So if you would like to be part of the energy rebalancing portion, just throw a yes into the chat, and we'll take that as your intention. If you prefer not to, just put a no in there. I'm not going to call out anybody's name, so I'll just check and make sure that we are good to go. And if you're on the recording, I'm just going to remind you to intentionally allow yourself to be part of the energy work that we're about to do, or intentionally say, no, thank you. And that's perfectly acceptable too. Okay? All right. So in working with the energies, what I've done is I've extracted some of those pieces, and we're going to energy test to see what pieces are really coming up for each one of you, and we'll do the clearing and rebalancing as a group. So to begin, we're just going to start by taking one hand on your belly, below your belly button. We're going to put that grounding hand back, And one hand on the heart chakra, just below your clavicle. I happen to have a little moon necklace, so when my hand there on my heart chakra, I have my hand on my moon, which really helps me to feel connected to the sky energy, which is beautiful. So just take a moment here to close your eyes if it feels good to you, and just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, finding a natural cadence with your breath and being present to that air element that Valen was talking about. We're moving so powerfully into this time of air. So air, the mind, thinking, mental function, our beliefs, our strategies, our philosophies, our knowledge, our capacity to problem solve. All of that is such a beautiful gift that we have, but sometimes it can be distracting and disempowering. So we want to be clear about our boundaries with this. So just taking the time to breathe and allow the softness of the breath. We're not going to attach it to anything. We're not going to make it be anything. We're just going to allow the breath, be in the allowing. And what we're moving toward is a sense of openness. But as Valen pointed out, it's openness with limits. And the key with those limits is that they are our limits. They're our limits. So I'm just going to ask everybody else to just mute yourselves, please, so that we don't get any background noise. Thanks. So sitting with that sense of limits that are imposed by you, but you don't want your limits imposed by your mind, because that can be fear-based. So we're going to anticipate some disruption over the next few months. This is what we've been told. Things are changing. We felt it for the last several years. It's going to get a little bit more intense. Those disruptions can be physical, mental, emotional, but all of them are going to be energetic in some way. And what we're seeking, what we're looking for, what our intention is to have sovereignty over our energetic field. And for this to happen, the question that we're going to hold for ourselves is, where am I empowered? Where am I empowered? So in this moment, with this creative work that I'm doing, do I feel empowered? In this relationship, do I feel empowered? In the work that I do, in the way that I wake up in the morning, do I feel empowered? Am I empowering myself with my routines in the morning, with my structure, with the container that I'm creating for my spiritual practice? Whatever that looks like for you, it might be a walk in nature. It might be stepping outside and looking at the sky. It might be taking a deep breath and a long exhale 3 or 4 or 5 times. It might be focusing on your morning tea or coffee. Whatever it is for you, getting in touch with your physicalness, getting in touch with your presence on the planet, and opening to grace, to this beauty, this magic. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check in to feel into where we are and need to connect to hope, optimism, expansion, and grace. So those were those energies that Valen was just talking about. Hope, optimism, expansion, and grace. So just take a moment to feel into the energy of hope for you. Feel into the energy of hope. And I'm going to energy test to see how well everybody's holding for your hope, your hopefulness. Okay, so everybody's holding really well for that. So that's beautiful. We're holding beautifully for hope. Now, optimism, your sense of optimism, whatever that looks or feels like for you. People might have completely different definitions of optimism. So I'm just checking in to see how well you're holding for optimism. You are holding beautifully for that. What about for your sense of expansion? Okay, so we're not holding so well for expansion. And the idea of holding for expansion might be kind of a strange one. It's like, well, aren't those opposite ideas? But they're not. What we're looking for is the strength or the empowerment that your personal energy has around the idea of expansion. And what I can feel as I test into it is there's an element of resistance there. Maybe it's an element of fear. Let's see how it's showing up. So I'm just going to check. There are some trapped emotions. We've only got one. So there's one that's coming up, one trapped emotion that's really coming up for everybody. So let's see what it is. We're just going to test and see. Okay, so what it is a lack of commitment. It's an energy of what we call wishy-washy. It's one of my favorite ones, makes me laugh a little bit. So that's good. It's good to be lighthearted about this kind of resistance we're having or this fear we're having. So I'm just going to go ahead. You can join me if you like by rubbing your hands together and just running your hands over top of your crown chakra, just over top of your head. You don't have to touch your head. You can touch your head if you want, but you don't have to. The energetic chakra is located above your actual physical crown. And we're just going to clear that of this energy of wishy-washy. It's like, no, you know what? We can let that go. This kind of resistance to full commitment. It's like, yeah, I'm 60% in. No. You need to be 100% committed to whatever it is that you're up to, whatever it is that you feel empowers you, whatever your creative moment is, whatever your entrepreneurial pieces that you're exploring, whatever business you're building, whatever relationship you're jumping into, whatever piece of self-development you're working on, whatever it is for you. In order to maintain that energetic sovereignty, to be clear about your own boundaries, that's what you need to expand. It seems like they're opposite, and in a way they are. We're holding this kind of paradox, and that is the nature of the universe. It's holding those paradoxes, not allowing that conflict, that dichotomy to bounce against itself. Stepping into the third way. We talked about that the last time that we were together. This third way. Expansion and containment together. You decide. You decide what that containment is. You decide what those limitations are. So let's check in again to see how we're holding for expansion now. Okay, we're holding 100% for expansion, all of us. Beautiful. Okay, next one's going to be grace. Okay, we're having a little struggle with grace. So we may be having a little bit of trouble defining grace for ourselves. So I'd just like you to take a moment to feel into what grace is for you. Feel into what grace is for you. There's no right or wrong here. If you have had some religious training, which many of us have, remember that grace as a word was co-opted by religion. So we're going to let that go. Let's see if we can let that go. Okay, everybody's able to let that go. That's great. So we're going to redefine grace. Redefine grace and just feel into it for yourself, what grace means for you. It might mean self-compassion. It might mean reminding yourself when a mistake is made that it's just an opportunity for another take. It might be being generous. It might be receiving the generosity of life. It might be allowing yourself to be in abundant flow, the abundant flow of livingness, of allness that is here with us all the time. That might be the definition of grace for you. So just sit with that, whatever that is for you. And I'm just going to test to see and make sure that you're holding for it 100%. Okay, so there's a little bit of wobbliness. We're holding at about 82%. So there's a little wobbliness. Okay, so let us go into this sense of wobbliness and see what is going on here. So we have a bit of a blocking belief. We've got a category of a blocking belief. Okay, so there's an appreciation, something around appreciation that we're just not getting or feeling exactly. So let's see if there's a block to appreciation. So we've got an emotion, trapped emotion that's blocking appreciation. So we're not feeling the full appreciation of that grace, whatever it is that is for you. So let's just see what the appreciation is, what the block is to appreciation. So it's a feeling of being unsupported. So you're not feeling fully supported in the grace, in receiving the grace, or in the grace of life, or in that flow of abundance. You're not feeling fully supported. Now, that's not surprising given the environment that we're living in right now. So let's just take a moment to clear that sense of unsupported. We're going to clear and release the trapped emotion of unsupported. Again, rubbing the hands together and just taking one hand or both hands if you wish. If you have a magnet, I use a magnet sometimes. Sometimes I use crystal. So just allowing unsupported to be cleared and released completely. Clearing and releasing unsupported from all lifetimes, but particularly this lifetime, and clearing and releasing the roots and origins of unsupported in this lifetime and across all lifetimes, lineages, ancestries, and incarnations. In this world, in all worlds, across all time and space, clearing and releasing unsupported. Okay, let's just check in. Has unsupported been completely released? Yes, it has been. Are we holding 100% for grace? Yes, we are. Okay, I want you to just take a moment here. And if you're feeling anything in particular, if you have any reflections, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And I'm just going to see if there's anything else for us to work on. We're going to look at see if there's anything else to work on. As you sit and feel into that energy of grace that we just allowed ourselves. And I love the image that Belen chose for us because it really embodies the sense of magic. If you live in a place where you get to see fireflies, it's one of my favorite things at this time of year. Well, we're a little late for that now, but about 2 weeks ago, we just had the most beautiful fireflies. So magical. So let's just sit with that for a moment. Beautiful. So we've got some folks talking about how that feels really landed in their body. So just notice what that is for you. So another piece that's coming up to rebalance for all of us is our ability to acknowledge our progress. Acknowledge our progress. So that's something that we often struggle with. And our colleague Wendy Mather, who is traveling in Europe right now, and we miss her. She has an expression that she uses from the Virtues Project called pausing for applause. How important it is for all of us to pause for applause. And none of us are really holding very strongly for that right now. So we took a moment. I wanted to do that for Valen. We took a moment to look back and see where we were in terms of this circle and this group back in December of 2020. So just reviewing back that the beginning of the new seed that was planted. And, looking back is a beautiful way to then allow yourself to have a sense of that progress. And so when you get a chance to do that, go ahead and do that. But for this moment, just know that you have experienced an enormous amount of progress. Whether or not you've been coming to these circles every single month, whether or not you've been here at all, maybe you're new, almost completely new to these circles, it doesn't matter. Whatever work you've been doing, whatever experiences you've been acknowledging for yourself, whatever way that you've been working through the energies, working with the energies of this time, there's been progress. Let's just acknowledge that. You don't even need to know what it is right now. Let's just sit and acknowledge that. And we're going to see if we have any blocks to that. No, we just needed to spend that time together to pause for applause. So let's just do that and really acknowledge that and celebrate that. Again, hand on the heart, we can have a little massage and just acknowledging, well done. Yeah, you did some work. You've progressed, you've set some intentions, you've moved forward with those intentions, you've expanded, you've opened up, you've received some learning, you've deepened your awareness, you've had some soul growth. So that's beautiful. Okay, we're all feeling that now. Love that. All right. Okay, so the last piece is to stay flexible, adaptable, and open. So we're just going to check in to see which of those three is the most important. So it's about staying open. So again, we're going to circle back to the beginning of the energetic rebalancing of this time where we were opening to grace. And so we want to support that openness for ourselves. We want to foster that. We want to cultivate that openness during this new moon time that we just finished the new moon in Leo on Sunday, where we just started, and so we're just kind of at the edge of the end of that new moon period. So we're still in that energy, and staying open is to some extent about trust. So let's just feel into the idea, whatever staying open to grace means for you. And we're just going to check in and see if we need to clear some trapped emotions. And we do. Any beliefs? No, we've just got some trapped emotions. Okay, we've got 2 trapped emotions to clear in order to maintain our energetic holding or empowerment around staying open. So we're just going to check in to see what those 2 trapped emotions are. So the first one is taken for granted. That's the first one, taken for granted. So just feel into what taken for granted feels like for you. That's one that needs to be cleared. And the second one is vulnerability. So there's a piece about how vulnerability is not working for us, or how it's making us feel disempowered, or I think we actually had to clear vulnerability last time as well. So we're going to clear both of those together. We're going to clear and release the trapped emotions of taken for granted and vulnerability. We're going to clear the roots and origins out of this lifetime and across all lifetimes, lineages, ancestries, and incarnations. We're going to clear and release taken for granted and vulnerability in terms of its roots, origins, but also manifestations and iterations, not only in this lifetime, but across all lifetimes, across all time and space, across all worlds, and throughout all aspects of self: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. We're going to clear and release the roots and origins, manifestations, and iterations of taken for granted and vulnerability. So I'm just going to check in and see that taken for granted has been cleared. Yes, vulnerability has been cleared. Lovely. Now we're just going to check in and see how strong we're holding for staying open. I just want everybody to sit in that energy, that feeling of staying open to grace. Okay, beautiful. You're holding really, really well now. Okay, so that is that. Does anybody have any questions around that you want to throw in there? I'm being reminded also, thank you, that Holly's just reminding us that our heart chakra is in the element of air. So working around that heart energy, that heart chakra, is such an empowering moment for us when we do that work. And we recognize that so much of the energy that we're in over the next several months is, as Valen pointed out, in that air element. So now we're going to pause recording so that we can share, and then we'll be back. Welcome back. And we just had the most beautiful share with regard to our experiences with this energy work. We talked a little bit about trusting the timing of the unfolding and how powerful that can be. So just check in to see where you're at in terms of trusting the power of the unfolding of these moments. We talked a little bit about the tools that we have available in our monthly Inner Wisdom Circle membership. So I'm just going to do a quick shameless plug for that. We have Jane Sloan joining us this month coming up next week for astrological magic, and that's going to be pretty spectacular. But we were also talking about some of the tools. There's a huge tool library because it's 3 years old now. Every month we've been offering new different kinds of tools, PDFs and journeys and guided meditations and so on. And so I was just sharing that with someone who has had an injury. We've had a number of people have knee and ankle and shoulder injuries, so we've been talking about that. And so I encourage you, if you have had an injury recently, because that's what some of this chaotic energy is going to cause for us. It's going to cause this disruption, this energetic disruption, which can show up as physical or mental or emotional disruption. If you're experiencing that, I encourage you to go back and seek out some of the tools that have supported you in the past, or look forward to some tools that would work for you. And we have those for you. So if you are interested, please do reach out. Until then, we are looking forward to seeing you at our next circle, the first Wednesday of the month in September. Take care.